live and check to make sure that we are alive. We are alive. I am sure I'm alive. The soul never dies. And we are alive. Okay. It's nice to know we are alive. It's a relief. So, let us start. Anyway, let's chant first. Here we go. Namaste, nada shringoya, aladana, toyane, iranyakachi, urvakshaha, shilatam kana kalaye, ituna singa padatuna singo, yato yamita tuna singa. Bahina singo, Ridayena singo, the singomatim, Shadanambra for joy, the singomatim, Shadanambra for joy. Namaste, Nada Singaya, Bladalad Dayane, Hiranyakasi, Purachaha. Shilatam kana kalaye, Yatona singa baratona singo, Yato yamita tona singa, Bahina singo rinayena singo, a singo my name, Shalanambra for joy. Havakana come and love and rain. Narita, Hiranyakasi Mudano, Bringago, Esamadrita, Nadani Rupa, Jaitakadisa, Hati, Nainagadisa, Jaitakadisa. Come and love a brain, come and just string Darita, Hiranyakasi Mudano Bringa Esamadrita, Nadani Rupa, Jaitakadisa Day. Jaidagane Sagate, Jaidagane Sade, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Madhya, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Madhya, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Ati Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvacharya also Teda Satashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Chalananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Mrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopikapanath Shyam Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Machuranam Ki Jai Jagadasami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. So, we're going to continue with the Caitanya Caritamrta. Incidentally, today is Bij Mastami. That means the 8th day of the moon. And it's the day of Bhishma, and in India and many places considered very auspicious to do special austerities and hear about Grandfather Bhishma. And this is sort of taking care of your debt to your forefathers when you do this. This is a tradition. This morning I did speak extensively about Grandfather Bhishma, and if you were interested in hearing the class I gave about Grandfather Bhishma this morning, you're welcome to go to my YouTube channel, and I'll try to put a label on that class later on today. Well, actually, I can do it right now as we're talking. You can go to my YouTube channel, and which I'm going to go to right now, and put a label on it so you can watch it. Or you can go to the Facebook, which is earlier today, and you can watch it if you like. And I am going to put a label on it so you can identify it. And the label will be Grandfather Bhishma. I should do it right now, so, because who knows, I may forget things. And it was an hour and 40-minute class, so it's quite long, but it'll be called Grandfather Bhishma on Bijmastami in New Taliban, which is a farm community in Mississippi, and today's date is the 8th of February, February 8th, 2022, and now it is labeled, so you can look at it later if you're interested in hearing about Grandfather Bhishma. So that's just a hint for you. Let me just go out of YouTube right now and go out of that. Okay. So, yeah, so there's many interesting things. I talked about Grandfather Bhishma's instructions for human beings, if you happen to be a human being. And I should go over them real quickly now before we go on. Nah, I don't think it's necessary for me to go over them because I don't have them with me. So let's go into the Caitanya Caritamrta. You know, you can hear the class. It was a very interesting class and very elaborate about Grandfather Bhishma, his position, and all those other details. Okay. So, Om Ganat Timirandasha Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Swami Srila Prabhupada, who has opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So we're reading from the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta, Madhya Lila, chapter 23. So Joan just asked me a question. Is Bijmasmi the appearance day of Bhishma Deva? No. It's generally understood as the day that Bhishma Deva left this world. which is after the winter solstice. Winter solstice occurs December 23rd, so it would be sometime after that when he was preaching to Maharaj Yudhisthira. So it's generally not understood his appearance day. It's understood as the day that he ascended. So we don't know the actual day of his appearance. At least I don't know the actual day of his appearance. So anyway, so we're reading from the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta, Madhya Lila, chapter 23, which talks about life's ultimate goal, Krishna Prema, and it's in the context of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's discussion with Sanatana Goswami in Benares. And so I think we're sort of, where are we getting towards the end? Maybe not getting towards the end of the chapter. I think we are getting towards the end of the chapter. Oh yeah, pretty sure. Let me just see where we are in the chapter. Yeah, we are definitely getting up there. Okay, so let's go. Beginning with text 106. So, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Let me just get everything set. Okay, that's good. We got everything set here. Okay, text 106 to 107 in the 23rd chapter of the Madhya Lila of the Sri Caitanya Charitamrta, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Here we go. Advaishta sarva bhutana maitra karuna evacha nirmamo nirahankara samaduka sukhakshami santushta satatam yogi yatatma drita nischyaha mayarpita mano bhudhir yomad bhakta prasame priyaha. One who is not envious but is a kind, this is of course Bhagavad Gita, but is a kind friend to all living entities, who does not think himself a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and distress, who is always satisfied, forgiving and self-controlled, and who is engaged in devotional service with determination, his mind and intelligence dedicated to me. Such a devotee of mine is very, very dear to me. Of course, it's Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, it's text 107. Just make sure we're in the right place in the Chaitanya Charitamrta. Prabhupada explains that one should not be jealous of members of other castes or nations. It is not that only Indians or Brahmanas can become Vaishnavas. Anyone can become a Vaishnava. Therefore, one should recognize that the Vaishnava cult must be spread must be spread all over the world. That is the real Advaishta. Moreover, the word Maitra, friendly, indicates that one who is able to preach the Bhakti cult all over the world should be equally friendly to everyone. These 2 and following 6 verses were spoken by Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita 12:13 to 20. So we got Bhagavad Gita verses here. That's nice. 12th chapter is entitled The Chapter of Devotional Service. Yasman nodvijate loko lokan nodvijate tuya harshamarsha bayod vegar mukto yasachame priyaha. He by whom no one is put into difficulty or anxiety, and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is liberated from jubilation, anger, fear, and anxiety, is very dear to me. These are the whole string of verses at the end of the 12th chapter dealing with different qualities that endear you to Krishna. Anapeksha suchir daksha udasino gatavyata sarvarambar parityagi yome bhakta same priyaha. A devotee who is not dependent on others, but is dependent solely on me, who is clean inwardly and outwardly, who is expert and indifferent to material things, without cares and free from all pains, and who rejects all pious and impious activities is very dear to me. The word anapeksha means that one should not be concerned with mundane people and should not depend upon them. One should depend solely on the Supreme Personality of Godhead and be free from material desires. One should also be clean within and without. To be outwardly clean, one should regularly bathe with soap and oil, and be inwardly clean. One should always be absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna. The words sarva ramba parityagi indicate that one should not be interested in the so-called smarta vidhi, or pious and impious activities. Wow! This is so cool. There's so much in this chapter because we have many devotees that are gravitating towards the smarta vidhi right now. And wow. Smarta means not someone smart. We like smart people. Smarta vidhi means you're really into all these little tiny, little details. But ultimately, one accepts things and rejects things based upon what pleases Krishna. And the details can be adjusted, as Prabhupada spoke previously in this chapter. Na yo na rishati na jeshi na shokshati na gangshati suva suva parityagi bhakti mang yasame priyaha. One who is free from all material jubilation, hatred, lamentation, desire, who renounces both materially auspicious and materially inauspicious things, and who is devoted to me, is very dear to me. Krishna is telling us how to be dear to him. Samashatro cha mitre cha tatamana pamanayoho shitoshna sukadukeshu samatsanga vivarchita tuyananda stutir monhi santushto yenakena chit arnekita stiramatir bhaktimam me priyo naraha. One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equal poised in honor and dishonor. I can just move by accident. Heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from attachment to material things and always grave and satisfied in all circumstances, who doesn't care for any residence and is always fixed in devotional service. Such a person is very dear to me. Yetu dharamamritam idam yatoktam paripasate sharadana matparama bhaktaste tiva me priyaha. Devotees who follow these imperishable religious principles of Krishna consciousness with great faith and devotion, fully accepting me as the supreme goal, are very dear, very, very dear to me. That's the final one in the Bhagavad Gita. Churani kem patina shanti dishanti viksham nai vangripa paravarita sharito pyayusham rudaguha kim ajito vati no pasanan kasmad bhajanti kavayo dana durmadandan. Are there no torn clothes? This is from Bhagavatam, of course. Lying on the common road. Why do you go to Walmart to buy clothes? This is for renunciates. Renunciates are supposed to live and dress very simply, like cotton. Do the trees, which exist for maintaining others, no longer give alms and charity? In other words, fruits and shade and everything. Do the rivers being dried up no longer supply water to the thirsty? Are the caves of the mountains now closed? Or above all, does the unconquerable Supreme Personality of Godhead not protect the fully surrendered souls? Then why should learned persons like devotees go to flatter those who are intoxicated by hard-earned wealth? That's really an interesting expression. Because sometimes we're so concerned with our bodily maintenance, we will actually subordinate our spiritual interests to money. And we become controlled by people who have money. I was thinking about this today in regard to how the temples sometimes, you're dependent on certain donors, and then you become controlled by the donor. Now, if the donor is a great devotee, that's pretty good that he's controlling you or she's controlling you. But if the donor is just thinking materialistically, which happens in certain cases, you become controlled. You're just flattering people. Flattering means agreeing with them when in fact you don't agree. This is a quotation from Shema. And also this verse is for sannyasis too. That, sannyasis should be just satisfied with whatever comes. Like, I should not be thinking that I need some silk dhotis. So let me flatter some donors. My dear donors, I need silk dhotis. I need earrings. Sannyasi is supposed to wear earrings. Not really. I need nice stitches on my clothes. I need my personal tailor. I need a personal cook. As I was explaining this to some people who want to take sannyas, they said, you better learn to cook for yourself. Because if you don't or can't cook for yourself, guess what? People will be able to control you. You'll be dependent on others. A sannyasi, insofar as possible, should not be dependent upon others for food or lodging or anything. It gives one the ability to speak the truth. Because as soon as you're mixing your speech or your preaching or your Krishna consciousness with remuneration, especially financial remuneration, you contaminate everything you're saying. It's a conflict of interest. We should just tell the truth. If you're a sannyasi. Now, if you're not a sannyasi, I just say you're for a salesman, you have to say for you, there's no profit, and you have to flatter people sometimes. Oh, you are so intelligent. You are so nice. Please buy this car. So, anyway, but a sannyasi is supposed to just speak the truth. Satyapriya hitam, speak the truth. And not worry about, am I going to get money or not money? Money, when it comes or not. Krishna takes care of you. Nitya nityanam chaitanya chaitananam eko bahunam yovidadati. Come on. What does that verse say? That Krishna is supplying all the needs to all the living entities, the plural living entities. Krishna is the singular living entity. And Krishna is supplying all of our needs. You have to have faith. And some sannyasis, they even take a vow not to eat unless Krishna makes the arrangement. Of course, I'm not going to take Krishna as my servant in that particular way because I'm not very advanced. So I make my own arrangements. I go to the supermarket. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 225. In this verse, Shukadeva Goswami advises Maharaj Parikshit that a devotee should be independent. Here's that word again. Independent in all circumstances, because it really sort of pollutes your actions and your words when you're dependent on someone else for maintenance or for any of your needs being met. You have to be able to be sufficient to fulfill all your needs. Now, obviously, if someone becomes disabled or something like that, that's a different thing. But as independent as possible. And actually, none of us are absolutely independent. Only Krishna is absolutely independent because Krishna gets whatever he wants. He's swarat, which means independent. And he's aptakama. He gets whatever he wants whenever he wants it. So it's only Krishna who can really be truly independent. But in so far as possible, in our limited circumstances, we should be as independent as possible. Learn how to cook for yourself. Learn how to do your laundry. Like today I did laundry. I'm wearing clothes that I washed last night. Yeah, I washed them myself. A sannyasi washes themselves. Sometimes you say, you know how to wash clothes, Maharaj. You know how to drive a car, Maharaj. You know how to clean the floor, Maharaj. You know how to do... Wow, I never heard of a sannyasi being able to cook. A sannyasi being able to wash clothes. That's what you have dhobis for. In India, you have this word, dhobi, dhobi wala. A dhobi wala is one of, in India at least, I don't know if it's other places, the Hindi is the same, but is someone who cleans your clothes, and they take it to the river and they beat it on rocks and everything, and they come back, it's nice and ironed. Well, I don't need a dhobi walla, I can clean my own clothes. I don't need someone to cook for me. I can go to the supermarket and clean myself. And that really helps my mind be really clear. I mean, sometimes I accept other people cooking for me and stuff like that. But that's not a feeling of dependence on them, because I know I can do it myself. It's a feeling of devotional exchange, which is actually much more blissful than, I need someone to clean my clothes. And therefore I have to pacify a disciple. Oh, my dear disciple, if I give you $100 a day, can you clean my clothes for me? I mean, for $100 a day, I'll clean the disciples' clothes. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 225. Devotee should be independent. The body can be maintained with no problem if one follows the instructions given in this verse. To maintain the body, one devotee said he'll do it for $80. To maintain the body, we require shelter, food, water, and clothing, and all these necessities can be obtained without approaching puffed up rich man. One can collect old garments that have been thrown out, one can eat fruits offered by the trees, one can drink water from the rivers, and one can live within the caves of mountains. By nature's arrangement, shelter, clothing, and food are supplied to the devotee who is completely surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a devotee does not need a puffed-up materialistic person to maintain him. In other words, devotional service can be discharged in any condition. This is a version of the Srimad Bhagavatam of 126. Savai pumsam paradharma yato bhakti udhaksajay ahaituki pratyata yapna suprasidite. The supreme occupation dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to the loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted in order to completely satisfy the self. This verse explains that devotional service cannot be checked by any material condition. That means haitu, no cause, apratiyata, it's never interrupted. It continues under all circumstances, or as Prabhupada said here, not checked on by any material condition. So in order to be like that, you have to be relatively independent. And if you're not independent, you're going to just so entangled just to have one little necessity met. Just like I told the story many times about the Brahmin who wanted his clothes washed, and there was a rat eating the clothes, and he had to get a cat to take care of the rat, and he had to get a cow to take care of the cat, and then he had to get a wife to take care of the cow, and then he had to get a job to take care of the wife. Not only did he get his wife, but he got all of her in-laws, or his in-laws. So the poor guy, it would have been better had he had holes in his clothes from the rats. But he got so entangled. We solve a little problem. And Bhagavatam actually says the material problems are solved, and the solution is worse than the problem. The cure is worse than the problem. That's the problem. I mean, it's like take a modern society. Okay. So there's a problem getting to work. And so you need a car to get to work. But you need a job to work to pay for the car. And not only that, you spend hours going back and forth to work every day. So it's like a vicious circle. It's a vicious circle. I mean, previously people used to be at home, and I'm not talking about being on Zoom and all that other nice garbage. Of course, I'm on Zoom too. They used to be at home and grow the food in their garden and have a little cow and just be happy with life. But in other words, they had a problem that was looking for a solution, or a solution that was looking for a problem, as they say. Okay. Tabe Sanatana Saba Siddhanta Puchila Bhagavata Siddhanta Kuda Sakali Kahila. Thereafter, Sanatana Goswami inquired from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the conclusive statements concerning devotional service, and the Lord very vividly explained all the confidential meanings of Srimad Bhagavatam. Harivamse kahiyache goloke nityastite Indra ashi kari ladyabe Shri Krishna re stute. In the revealed scripture, Huriyamsa, there's a description of Goloka Vrindavan and the planet where Lord Sri Krishna eternally resides. This information was given by King Indra when he surrendered to Krishna and offered prayers after Krishna had raised Govardhan Hill. Wow. In the Vedic scripture, Huriyamsa Vishnu Parva, chapter 19, there's the following description of Goloka Vrindavan. Now you're going to hear about Goloka Vrindavan. Wow. Manushilokadurvam tu kaganam gatiruchate akasho pari ravir dwaram swargasha vanuman swargadurvam brahmaloko Marmarshi Gana Sevita Tatrasamagatis Chaiva Jatisham Jamahatmanam Tasho Parigavam Lokasajastam Palanti Hisa Hi Sarvagata Krishna Mahakasha Gato Mahan Uparupa Yapat Upari Tatrapi Gatis Tavatapo Mahi Yam Davidmo Vayam Sarve Prachanto Pipithamaham Gati Shama Damachanham Swaga Sukrita Karmanam Brahm Ye Tapasi Ukdanam Brahmaloka Paragatihi Gamam He Vatuloko Loko Duraro Dura roha hi sagatihi Satulokas twaya Krishna Siddhamana Kritatmana Drito driti mata vira Adnignato padram van gavam. When the king of heaven, Indra, surrendered to Krishna, after Krishna had raised Govardhan Hill, Lord Indra stated that above the planetary systems wherein human beings reside is the sky where birds fly. Above the sky is the sun and its orbit. This is the entrance to the heavenly planets. Above the heavenly planets are other planets, up to Brahmaloka, where those advancing in spiritual knowledge reside. The planets up to Brahmaloka are part of the material world, which are called Devi Dharma. Because the material world is under the control of Devi Durga, it is called Devi Dhamma. Above Devi Dhamma is a place where Lord Shiva and his wife, Uma, reside. Those brightened by spiritual knowledge and liberated from material contamination reside in that Shivaloka. Beyond that planetary system is the spiritual world, where there are planets called Vaikuntha Lokas. Goloka Vrindavan is situated above all the Vaikuntha Lokas. Goloka Vrindavan is the kingdom of Srimati Radharani, Hribo, and the parents of Krishna, Maharaj Nanda, and Mother Yashoda. In this way, there are various planetary systems, and they are all creations of the Supreme Lord, as stated in the Brahma Samhita, 5th chapter, text 43. Golokanamni nijadamni Talejatasya Devi Mahesha Haridamashu Teshu Teti Prabhava Nichira Vihitas Chayena Govinda Madhipurasham Tamaham Bhashami. Below the planet named Goloka Vrindavan are the planets known as Devidam, Maheshdam, and Haridam. These are opulent in different ways. They are managed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, the original Lord. I offer my obeisances to him. Thus, Goloka Vrindavan Dham is situated above the Vaikuntha planets. The spiritual sky containing all the Vaikuntha planets is very small compared to Goloka Vrindavan Dham. The space occupied by Goloka Vrindavan Dham is called Mahakasha, or the greatest sky of all. Lord Indra said, "We asked Lord Brahma about your eternal planet, but we could not understand it. Those fruitive actors who have controlled their senses and mind with pious activities can be elevated to the heavenly planets. Pure devotees who are always engaged in Lord Narayan's service are promoted to the Vaikunthas. However, my Lord Krishna, your Goloka Vrindavan Dham, is very difficult to attain, yet both you and that supreme planetary system have descended here upon this earth. That's Vrindavan Dham, or Braj. Unfortunately, I have disturbed you by my misdeeds, and that was due to my foolishness. I am therefore trying to satisfy you by my prayers. Sri Nilakanta confirms the existence of Goloka Vrindavan by quoting Goloka Vrindavan Dham by quoting the Rig Samhita and the Rig Veda. Wow. 154:6. This is so interesting. Tavam vasdun yushmasi gamadhyahe gatragavo puri shringa ayasaha atraha tad urugai hasya krishna paramam padam abhavati puri. We wish to go to your, Radha and Krishna's beautiful houses, about which cows with large, excellent horns are wandering. Yet distinctly shining on this earth is that supreme abode of yours that showers joy on all. O Urugaya Krishna, who is much praised. Wow, that's a beautiful verse in the Rig Veda. Moshala Lila Hare Krishnan Taradana Keshavatara Arayata Viruda Vyakyana Mahishi Hananari Sabamaya Maya Vyakya Shikaila Yache Shusidanta Hoya. Illusory stories opposed to the conclusions of Krishna consciousness concerning the destruction of the Yadu dynasty, Krishna's disappearance, the story that Krishna and Balaram arise from black hair and white hair of Kshirodaksha Vishnu, and the story about the kidnapping of the queens. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu explained to Sanatana Goswami the proper conclusions of these stories. And Prabhupada will explain a little bit. Due to envy, many Asuras, that's demons, describe Krishna to be like a black crow or an incarnation of a hare. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Sanatana Goswami how to counteract all these Asuric explanations of Krishna. The word kaka means crow, and kesha means hair. Shoo. The Asuras describe Krishna as an incarnation of a crow. Oh, I just want to kill the Asuras. An incarnation of a Shudra, blackish tribe, an incarnation of hair, not knowing that the word kesha means Ka Isha. Ka means Lord Brahma, and Isha means the Lord. In other words, the Lord of Lord Brahma. Thus, the word Kesha indicates that Krishna is the Lord of Lord Brahma. Some of Lord Krishna's pastimes are mentioned in the Mahabharata as the Moshala Lila. These include stories of the destruction of Yadu dynasty, Krishna's disappearance, his being pierced by a hunter's arrow, the story of Krishna's being an incarnation of a piece of hair, his avatar, as well as the Mahisha Hanana, the kidnapping of Krishna's queens. Actually, these are not factual, but are related for the bewilderment of the Asuras, who want to prove that Krishna is an ordinary human being. They are false in the sense that these pastimes are not eternal, nor are they transcendental or spiritual. There are many people who are by nature averse to the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such people are called Asuras. They have mistaken ideas about Krishna. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the Asuras are given a chance to forget Krishna more and more, because Krishna is reciprocating with their desires, birth after birth. Thus they make their appearance in a family of Asuras and continue the process, being kept in bewilderment about Krishna. Asuras in the dress of sannyasis, that's not me, even explain the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam in different ways according to their own imaginations. Thus, they continue to remain Asuras birth after birth. As far as the Kesha avatar, incarnation of a hare, is concerned, it is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam 2.7.26. The Vishnu Purana also states, Uja Harat Mana Kesho Sita Krishna Mahabala. Similarly, it is stated in the Mahabharata in the Adi Parva 189, 31 to 32. Sa Chapi Kesho Harir Ucha Karta Ekam shuklam aparam chapi krishnam tau chapi keshva vishatam yadunam kulesriya rohinim devakim cha tae oreka eko balabhadro bhuva yosav shritastasya devashakesha krishno dvitiya keshava samba bhuva kesha yosav varnata krishna uktaha. Thus in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Vishnu Purana, and the Mahabharata, there are references to Krishna and Balaram being incarnations of a black hair and white hair, respectively. It is stated that Lord Vishnu snatched 2 hairs, one white and one black, from his head. These 2 hairs entered the wombs of Rohini and Devaki, members of the Yadu dynasty. Balaram was born from Rohini and Krishna was born from Devaki. Thus Balaram appeared from the first hair and Krishna appeared from the second hair. It was also foretold that all the Asuras who were enemies of the demigods would be cut down by Lord Vishnu by his white and black plenary expansions, and that the Supreme Personality of Godhead would appear at... Whoops, what happened here? Oh my God. We lost our place. Wait. Anyway. Anyway, let's go back. Oh. Touched the wrong key. Here we go. The Asuras, who were enemies of demigods, would be cut down by Lord Vishnu as white. We read that. The personality God would appear and perform wonderful activities. In this connection, one should see the Lagu Bhagavatamrta, the chapter called Krishnamrta, verses 156 to 164. Srila Rupa Goswami has refuted this argument about the hair incarnation, and his refutation is supported by Sri Baladev Vidyabhushan's commentaries. This matter is further discussed in the Krishna Sandarbha, that's Jiva Goswami's book, and the commentary known as the Sarva Samvadani by Srila Jiva Goswami, so you can read that. These are all illusory pastimes that are there to mislead those who want to be misled. Because if you want to be misled, Krishna says, Ye yatamam prapajante tam satai bhajamiham mamavart manuvartante manusha partha sarvasha. So, as you want, Krishna reciprocates with you, Prabhu. Tabe sanatana prabhura chalane dariya nivedan karedante trinagucha lana. Sanatana Goswami then humbly accepted his position as lower than a piece of straw, and symbolically holding a straw in his mouth, he fell down, clasped the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and submitted the following petition. Nicha jati, nicha sevi, muni supamara, Siddhanta shikaila ye, ramara gochara. Sanatana Goswami said, My dear Lord, I am a very low-born person. Indeed, I am servant to low-born people. Therefore, I am very, very downtrodden. Nevertheless, you have taught me conclusions unknown even to Lord Brahma. This is his humility. Tumiye kahilahe siddhantamrta sinu moranamana chunite narihare bindu. The conclusions that you have told me are the ocean of the ambrosia of truth. My mind is unable to approach even a drop of that ocean. Pongu na chaite yarihaya damaramana varadeha mora mate daria charana. If you want to make a layman like me dance, kindly bestow your transcendental blessings by placing your lotus feet on my head. Wow. Muni Shikalum Toris Puruka Sakala Etumara Varahite Habimura Bala. Now, will you please tell me, let whatever I've instructed all be fully manifested unto you. By blessing me in this way, you will give me the strength to describe all of this. Wow. Tabi Mahaprabhu Tanras Shire Dari Kare Varadila Esaba Spurukatamare. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then placed his hand on Sanatana Goswami's head and blessed him, saying, let all these instructions be manifested to you. Wow. Sangshepe kahilun prema prayojana sambada Vishtari kahana nayaya prabhura prasada. Thus I have briefly described a discussion of the ultimate goal of life, love of Godhead. The mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu cannot be described expansively. This is unlimited. Prabhura upadeshamrita shuneye jana achidat miliye tanre Krishna prema dana. Whoever hears these instructions given to Sanatana Goswami by the Lord comes very soon to realize love of God, Krishna. This is, of course, the Shruti Pala, the benediction you get at the end of the chapter. And we know we're at the end of the chapter, because this is the last verse. Shri Rupa Raghunatha Pade Yara Hasha Caitanya Charitamrta Kahe Krishna Dasa. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy. I, Krishnadas, narrate the Sri Caitanya Charitamrta, following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports, the Sri Caitanya Charitamrta, Madhya Lila. Whoops, what happened here? Oh, someone raised their hand. Yeah. Thus end Madhya Lila, 23rd chapter, describing love of Godhead. Okay, love of Godhead. So, I think this is an appropriate place to stop, and it's actually the time right now. And so we're going to stop and take some questions. And I see Gopalini has some questions. Let me just stop sharing. We ended the chapter. And tomorrow we'll start the next chapter. Actually, tomorrow is also an appearance day. I believe it's either Ramanujacharya or someone's appearance. Let me see. Tomorrow is... Let me check. Tomorrow is Wednesday. Oh, it's Madhvacharya's appearance day. So tomorrow we're going to speak about Madhvacharya. And so we will allow you to ask questions after I allow you to unmute yourselves. And little Gopal has a question. Right. Okay, so you can unmute yourself now.
Please send my obeisance.
Yes.
Judith, earlier you were speaking about preaching is contaminated by the thought of remuneration, especially financial remuneration, but also there would be other considerations that would contaminate. If you desire to get something from someone, then perhaps you can tell them entirely the truth. So, unfortunately, there has been this argument going around for the last few years that Srila Prabhupada spoke about different things as a preaching strategy, and that wasn't actually the Siddhanta, quote unquote. And wouldn't that be basically saying that Prabhupada wasn't preaching truthfully or purely because he was looking to get more followers or trick people into becoming Krishna conscious without telling them the truth or some other such nonsense?
Yeah, actually, you probably read the same article I did today. It was sent from someone in Michigan who shall remain
Fortunately,
named.
I didn't read it, but it's not an old argument. It's not a new argument.
But this person also accused, in addition to saying Prabhupada was preaching something, this person also says Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Bhakti Vinod Thakur included them
God.
in that. So, and of course, this has to do with the whole argument, which I'm not going to get into right now. about where the soul came from, obviously. Uh, and we're not going to get into the argument because it's just not something that's part of this class. But let's try to understand what Siddhanta is. The word Siddhanta means, Siddha means perfection, Anta means conclusion or end. So it means perfect conclusion. So really, when you're talking about the subject matter of where the soul came from, that's not a subject matter of Siddhanta. First of all, and you'll find various charyas will differ on it. It's it's a question of fact, but Siddhanta means like you're not the body. These are aspects of Siddhanta. You're not the body. Krishna's supreme personality of Godhead and all that other nice stuff. So as far as uh, these subject matters, I guess I said I wasn't going to talk about where the soul came from. They're actually inconceivable, and that's what Bhaktivinoda Thakur said. But apart from that, Prabhupada never adjusted anything to make followers or to attract people. He maybe adjusted the style of music or the amount of rounds. That's not Siddhanta. These are details. Siddhanta is something different. So it's actually a hellish accusation, which is a very offensive accusation against an acharya to say that he would adjust the truth. I mean, because Prabhupada, if he wanted more followers, he would have been like this guy at, oh, sorry about this, won't mention any names, like this person in Vrindavan who says you can take drugs, LSD. Prabhupada, he could have had millions and millions of followers by changing things. But Prabhupada never. He always spoke the truth, and even if his followers adjusted something minor, he would get angry with them. What to speak of changing the Siddhanta? And certainly Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. I mean, they maybe adjusted the method of presentation, like Prabhupada used the harmonium, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur never used the harmonium. Neither did Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur use the harmonium. Certain things like Prabhupada had women living in the ashrams, but that's not Siddhanta. These are details. And as far as where the soul comes from, basically because both the soul and Krishna are beyond time. That's why the word anadi is used. I said I wouldn't get into the discussion. It's not something that's subject to argumentation. And anyone who argues it is basically contradicting themselves, because when you're dealing with something that's anadi, without beginning, you can't understand that. And you're trying to use logic of cause and effect when dealing with something that's beyond cause and effect, which is the soul's entanglement in this material world. Anyway, so I think my personal opinion, it's highly offensive to say that Prabhupada would change Krishna consciousness or change the presentation or any essential truth in Krishna consciousness. So, but people will criticize Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and even Bhaktivinoda Thakur. What can you do? Is the story of Hunter piercing Krishna's foot true? That story is in the Bhagavatam. And Krishna manifested in illusory form, and obviously, and the hunter was supposed to be Brigamuni, who had committed a big mistake by kicking Lord Vishnu in the chest, so he was cursed to become a hunter. And Krishna manifested this, it's an illusory pastime. He manifested to bewilder the atheists. So in one sense, you can say it's true, but Krishna did it to bewilder the atheists. It is something that occurred, but Krishna did this illusion. Like Krishna acts like he's bewildered or something like that, to actually bewilder the atheist, to allow the atheist to reciprocate with the atheist because, as I mentioned before, ye tamam propajante tam sataiva bhajami hamam avartmana vartante manushapartha sarvasha. What does that mean? That means the Krishna is reciprocating with everyone. And if you really want to be a good atheist, you got some nice philosophy. And who gives you the philosophy? That's Krishna. And Krishna gives you an excuse to be an atheist. He's so cool. He gives you that free will. So, good question. And one more from Tulsi Craddock. That's a weird name. Not the first name. The first name is good, but the second name is pretty weird. Sounds like a bird's name. So what's
Okay.
up, Miss Tulsi?
Okay. In Nectar of Devotion, when it's just
Wow, it looks
Prabhupada's,
like you're building a new house. You're in the
oh,
attic.
yeah, Krishna house.
Yeah, that's Krishna house. Nobody's going to join if they have to join with all that insulation around them.
Nah, that'll be my room.
Oh, okay, your room is all right. So, all right, so you have a question.
So, Rupa Goswami and Srila Prabhupada are describing the characteristics of pure devotional service, and then they're describing a pure devotee who doesn't have any material desires. So
Yep,
he never asks Krishna for anything.
like
But
you.
then, yeah, right. So then, right after that, the next sentence says, "But even if he has some other desire, Krishna will fulfill it without even asking." So, is there an example of some other desire?
Well, a pure devotee sometimes, they have some may have some feeling of love towards their family or something like that. I
Mhm.
mean, I'll give you an example because I am not a pure devotee. Oh, we'll give an example that includes you. How about this?
Oh,
Uh, my whole life is dedicated to pleasing Prabhupada. Of course, I'm not pure. I'm not making that claim. But I have great love for my mother. And so Krishna saw that, even though that wasn't in my devotional path, that I had great love for my mother. Uh, then Krishna made the arrangement, and I'm specifically referring to Tulsi here. So what happened is, I told the story many times before. I was in Fiji. You should let everybody see you so they know how exalted you are. Tilt the camera so they can see who you are.
okay. Well, so, someone that I
No, not you're not Krishna. Let them see
no, I
your
know
face.
that's better.
That's Lord Nityananda. They should see you, not the installation. So what happened is
And
that I was in Fiji and I heard my mother was going to pass away. And then what happened is that I contacted Tulsi. She's the one who actually went to see my mother. And I sent a ticket for her. She flew to see my mother. And within she lay down next to my mother, was chanting in her ear, playing a tape of me preaching to my mother. Preaching, anyway. A tape of me.
you did. It was perfect what you were saying to her.
Yeah, she played a tape of me preaching, and then uh, and gave her, sacred water, chanted to her, and then within an hour, hour and a half, my mother passed away in Tulsi's association. And when my mother passed away, Tulsi saw or felt my mother leave the body through the mouth, and then my mother expressed to her uh, after she left her body how grateful she was. Right?
Yeah, it was really powerful. She was just so grateful and so happy and just really grateful.
Yeah. So you see, so I had some other desire because I
Yeah,
can't
that was
say
spiritual.
well. That's a devotee has some other desire too. So just an example. I'm not a pure devotee, so that's what it's in reference to.
Mhm.
That you have some like because that was really a self-centered desire. If you think about it, it's like special mercy because she's connected with my body. Of course, Prahlad Maharaj was also this. All right, Prahlad Maharaj is a better example because he was a pure devotee. And Krishna fulfilled the desire because I wanted my mother to hear about Krishna. And then Krishna made the arrangement to send his great devotee, not me, because Krishna understood that I wasn't such a good devotee, so he sent a very good devotee to be with my mother.
Well, he
And
sent me to turn on the videos, the video, so you can.
so he sent a great devotee to be with my mother, and then my mother heard this great devotee and decided to go back to Godhead and communicate with this great devotee. So that's an example. Prahlad Maharaj with his father is another example. Because I'm not a pure devotee, but Prahlad Maharaj is a pure devotee. So that's a good example. Okay, I think it's time to call it a day. We have a lot of things to do here. I'm still in New Taliban. Tomorrow I will be back in North Carolina, Krishna willing. And we will be able to give class from North Carolina and Madhvacharya's appearance day. Maybe I will speak about Madhvacharya since I'm not giving a morning class tomorrow as I will be on the road, hopefully. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. And that's it. All glories to His divine grace, Srila Prabhupada.